we conservatives have history and logic and perspective and critical thinking and dialogue and debate. We have truth on our side as well, and they have feelings, and they go directly to the emotional component of the individual. Well, look, I've never made a good decision when I'm angry. I don't know about you. And I've never really made a good decision when I got emotional. And when you start to communicate what people actually think about issues and not how you feel about issues, all of a sudden that's the difference between the people that follow the left and the people that are on the right. So the college campuses are completely out of control. You saw that short video about safe spaces. You have microaggressions and trigger warnings. The University of California just released more racist microaggressions the other day. Did you see this list? Absolutely abhorrent. On them is a racist statement is saying there is only one race, the human race, that is an outlawed statement in the UC system. Saying America's the greatest country in the history of the world, saying you could pull yourself up by the bootstraps is not allowed in the UC system. I joke around. I mean, it's like coming to another country here, folks. It really is. I'm not quite sure yet what the solution is, but I think part of it has to go through the college campuses and the youth. So let's talk a second about our president, because he came here recently, which was great. I love Dennis Miller's quote, if you haven't seen it. If Trump wanted to be greeted nicely here, he should have come as an illegal immigrant. He would have really been greeted with open arms, right? He should have just came over the Rio Grande. They would have had a party for him. Here's what I love about the Beverly Hills liberals. They hate walls, and they all live in gated communities. They hate guns, and they walk around with armed guards. They hate school choice, and they send their kids to private schools. They're the epitome of the hypocrites, right? They live in their ivory towers, and they seek every possible tax deduction possible. They're radical environmentalists while they fly around on their private jets. And they want everyone else to live a different creed and different lifestyle for thee, but not for me. And that is inherent in the leadership of the left, and you can see it in the statements all throughout the Democrat Party. I'm very precise with my language, and I'm going to say something that some people disagree with. I believe that the election of Donald Trump saved this country. I really do. I believe the election of Donald Trump saved this country. I do. I'm going to say another statement. I believe that I'm a very spiritual person. I'm an evangelical Christian. I believe it was God intervening himself with one last chance for this country. I really do. I really do. I really do. Because it was so unlikely that a blustery billionaire from New York ran over the Bush dynasty, ran over the media dynasty, ran over the Clinton dynasty, and then a month out, the Billy Bush tapes come out, he ran over the GOP elites, he ran over the political elites, he ran the most unconventional campaign imaginable, and still wins the presidency in record fashion. I mean, you can't explain it. You just can't explain that. And I'll tell you this. I believe in the last year, the statistics point to themselves, he's been the most conservative president in most of our lifetimes, even since Ronald Reagan. He really has. Let's talk about it for a second. Because, and I've spent time around the First Family. I've got to know Don and Eric well, and I've spent time around the president. It is not easy to do what he is doing right now, against unprecedented opposition from both political parties, by the way. And you look, I can go point by point. How about moving the embassy to Jerusalem? Amazing, right? Embassy to Jerusalem. Something that Bush didn't do, that Clinton didn't do, that Reagan didn't do, and President Trump said, well, I said I would do it on the campaign trail. Where do I sign? Boom, embassy to Jerusalem. Withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord Agreement. Amazing, right? I mean, come on, it's amazing. Absolutely spectacular. And I find people in our party, and I say that loosely because the Republican Party, for all intents and purposes, is dead, okay? It really is. Donald Trump saved the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell is only majority leader because of Donald Trump. Paul Ryan is only Speaker of the House because of Donald Trump. Those steel workers in Pennsylvania would not have voted for a Republican ticket if it wasn't for Donald Trump. Make no mistake. And they should be thanking him every single day that they are in the majority and they are in the leadership because of his leadership and his capacity to message very hard to understand ideas to middle America is completely why they're in leadership. But you can go point by point by point. ISIS is an absolute near elimination in 1 year. I mean, 98% of the land has been taken from ISIS because we've liberated our generals on the ground. The largest middle-class tax cut in American history, which the Democrats call crumbs, which we'll get to Nancy Pelosi in a second. Trillions of dollars from overseas coming back to this country. Wages are going up. 98% manufacturing confidence, the highest ever recorded. Black unemployment at record low levels. More women in the workforce than ever before. More small business startups. 99 record stock market finishes. The Dow at record levels. We have people investing capital like you wouldn't believe. You got Apple. You got Home Depot. You have Walmart. Giving bonuses and raises to middle Americans. And the Democrat Party voted for none of these reforms. Zero. Now, one of the big things that all of you know, it's a passionate thing for me, is two things: regulation and judges. So let's talk about these two things. If Trump only did these two things, he would be considered a radically successful president. So regulation. And on the campaign trail, he said, for every one new regulation I put in, I'm going to get rid of two, right? Remember when he said that? He said, for every one new regulation, we get rid of two. Well, the numbers are in. After 1 year, he has gotten rid of 24 regulations for every new one regulation. Absolutely unbelievable. Huge, huge thing, right? Unbelievable. The biggest deregulation in American history, by the way. 1,450 regulations rescinded in 1 year. On his best year, George W. Bush got rid of like 61. Obama added thousands every single year. And the president said, we're just getting started. We are going to reduce the size of the Federal Register. And those of you in business know, regulation is the true taxation. Regulation is the true prohibitor of business because it comes so silently. It goes on your bottom line without even realizing. You have to hire attorneys. You have to hire compliance officers. You worry about it every day. You could go to jail. Regulation is the true taxation. It's the true attacker of business. And the president, a business mind, actually understands this. So regulation, absolutely terrific. And the other thing is judges. Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, who's a total superstar, phenomenal. And by the way, the fact that Neil Gorsuch is on the Supreme Court will probably end public sector unions as we know it in America, thanks to this new lawsuit. It's a big, big deal. And again, this is all thanks to the president. I don't think any of those other low-energy candidates would have nominated someone as conservative as Neil Gorsuch. I'm just going to be honest. But it's not just him. 23 circuit court judges that are all conservative that have been installed, 14 at the highest possible level, the Circuit Court of Appeals. I go point by point by point, and there's a reason why the Heritage Foundation said his year was the most conservative year of a presidency that they have ever recorded. It's because what he's doing is actually not that conservative. It's common sense, because our country has gone so radically far to the left. It's unrecognizable. And so here's a businessman from New York who just thinks in terms of pragmatics and practicality and says, what do you mean we have all these crazy regulations? Let's get rid of it. What do you mean our generals can't fire upon Muslim extremists? Let's get rid of it. What do you mean that a puddle in Kansas is considered a lake, that you have to go through the Employment Prevention Agency, the EPA? What do you mean that kids can't, you can't use school choice vouchers? And boom, one thing after the other. And you start to see it. By the way, are you not happy Andrew McCabe is not getting his pension? Is that not the coolest thing? Is that not a great thing? That might have saved Jeff Sessions in my mind, by the way. It just might have saved Jeff. I was very, very pleased to see that. I think we got to get a lot more indictments rolling. We got to open up the Clinton Foundation. We got to go after Uranium One. We got to go after Obama. We got to go after Eric Holder. We got to go after Loretta Lynch. We got to go after every single one of these animals to what they did to this country. Justice does not go away just because you're out of office. It does not go away. So we got to continue those investigations. But nevertheless, it is so important that we as conservatives understand how unprecedented and how lucky we are to have a president that unapologetically wants to defend this country and do what's best for this country. Because look, I mean, I'm going to say something rather unpopular, and I say it a lot and people don't like it. George W. Bush was a disaster, okay? He was a disaster. He really was. He was bad for the country. He was bad in every single way. And he grew government, no child left behind, Medicare Part D, exploded the deficit, declared 2 bad wars, grew government bureaucracy, made the federal headcount go up, the Federal Registry increased, he created a new division of government, Department of Homeland Security. He was not a conservative. He thought he could run government better than the Democrats. That was his worldview. He's like, Republicans are better at managing government. And now we have a completely asymmetrical, business-minded, pro-growth, pro-American guy who does not care about appeasing the political elites. Definitely does not care what the fake news media has to say about him. And the greatest thing he has done, and I see it on college campuses, is he has given young conservatives permission to fight. He has given us permission to fight back against these liberal academics. Because look, the president understands at the very fundamental core that we are in a war for this country. It's not a debate. It's not a dialogue. It's not a nice dinner conversation. The left wants America to perish, and we don't. There's really very little we agree on from that point forward. And when you start with those two big differences, then okay, we are going to have to defeat you. We're going to have to defeat you politically and ideologically and culturally, and we're going to have to beat you on the collegiate level. We're going to have to beat you in media, and that's what all these people here are doing such an important job of. And so I want everyone in this room to walk away. The president might tweet something that you might find unsavory, couldn't care less. He might sign a tariff you disagree with, couldn't care less. But at the core, understand that we have a president who is a patriot, that will do anything to make this country turn around, and it's our duty to defend him because no one else will. The media want him dead, and I don't say that hyperbolically. If he died, they would be smiling on CNN. They would be smiling on the cable networks. If they get the House back, God forbid, they will have impeachment hearings. They will, starting day one. They will subpoena anyone who's ever had any sort of conversation with the president. And you know what? There's a lot of important congressional races here in Southern California that might determine the future of the House. And if there's a direct call to action, it's get involved in those races in any way you can. Financially, get on the ground, knock on doors, any way you can. Morgan, running right there, good friend of mine, she's running. I'm going to donate to her, I've known her for years. Do whatever you possibly can to get on the ground because it has national implications. If you say, oh, well, he's not my congressman, that's not true. It's everyone's congressman. Devin Nunes is my congressman, even though I'm from Illinois, and he's doing a great job. He really is fighting. He's doing a great job. And we got to help these guys out. And so, kind of summarizing it before I yield to the next speaker who's going to do phenomenal. We have to defend this president. We have to defend this agenda. Thank goodness for Nancy Pelosi. I think she should go on television every single day. She is the greatest opposition research gift to the Republican Party. I really wonder if the Democrats know how dumb she is. I'm serious. I look at it, I'm like, do they want us to keep the House? She's wonderful. So I want her on television all the time. She's great. That shows how corrupt the Democrat Party is. They'll continue in the minority. Chuck Schumer's a disaster, but he's nowhere near as bad as Nancy Pelosi. And look, our organization, Turning Point USA, we're fighting the fight not just for the next 2 years, but for the next 40 years on these campuses. These professors are, and that's so important, because the professors and the academics and the administrators, they will stop at nothing to indoctrinate college students away from fundamental American values. And so it takes an organization that is driven by students and for students to organize that next generation around the ideas of freedom and liberty and smaller government.